grad school. The only grad school in Knoxville that you didn't really have to go to undergrad. You know, you can skip that part if you want to. I'm going to pass around a sheet as well. A very, very, very interesting sheet. It is, let me let it get float around before I start talking about it. But today our topic, let's see if we're all looking. Whoa! What we're going to talk about.
Hey, pull that speaker thing closer to your.
Say what?
Pull that a little closer to your mouth.
Like that?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay. Ignore the man behind the curtain. I love these audiences. They know my references. Anyway, what we're going to do with this whole year, fall semester and spring semester, I'm pulling you guys away from backyard habitat. That's what we focused primarily on all last year, was the roughly 30 species of birds that you do see around your backyard. But that's only a small portion of what birds are here. This list I'm passing, and so the list I'm passing around is my kind of list of Knox County birds. There's roughly 170 species that are seeable in Knox County. Now, if you're not from Knox County, Anderson County, it should match most of the counties around us, other than, say, Blount County, Sevier County, if you're from there, because you would include the top of the Smokies. And there's birds at the top of the Smokies that are not on my list that would be on your Blount County list or Sevier County. I grew up in Sevier County. I'm a Gatlinburg boy. Anyway, like ravens, top of the mountain, saw-whet owls, top of the mountain. So anyway, birds like that are not on the list if you're from one of those counties. But if you're from Knox County, Anderson County, Loudoun County, Greene County, any of these counties that are in the valley, this list should be very close to you, the list that's in your house or around your house or area. And the list, and when it comes around, after each bird, there's a letter. If there's a P, that means it's a permanent resident robin. It's here every month, every year. It could have a S after its name. It's only here in the summertime. And these, we're going to start breaking these down with the different classes to come. One of the classes is W, all the winter birds, so birds that come here just in the wintertime. And we only have them, they migrate, they're perfectly fine migrating here. So that's S, and then there's the M birds. Those are migratory birds that pass through, and you may see them, rosebreast or grosbeak. They come to my feeders for about a week and then they move on. So we will cover those different seasonal birds with other classes, but today I decided to focus on habitats and niches. So when you're out and about, away from your house, you may be in some of these different habitats. So then that kind of, you have to think about, wow, I'm now on a shoreline. What about birds I might see? And TVA created a lot of shorelines when they changed the raging river to a series of lakes. And in the wintertime, they lower the water, and so there's a lot of muddy shorelines where we get kind of where we get birds that look like beach birds. So let's get going. First, okay, woodlands. We mostly all have woodlands near us or somewhere close by. But some of the typical birds you see in multiple acres of woods, they may come to your house if you live near the woods, or they may come around you. First one is the pileated woodpecker. They need several acres. I have them I live opposite UT Hospital. All of those woods that are beside UT, that's my backyard. So anyway, I get these birds, but I see them at a distance. I know they're there. Pileated woodpeckers need dead trees, not only to bore out a nesting cavity and a roosting cavity, but they chip away behind the bark and eat carpenter ants. So their niche is to find insects under tree bark. So that's their niche. Next one is a yellow-bellied sapsucker. I won't wear you out on woodpeckers, but here's one more. This is only here in the wintertime. And this is the one woodpecker that'll drill little perfect little holes in living trees. If they didn't call me, or maybe I missed the call. You know, it's so easy to miss the call. They're not sap suckers, they're sap lickers. They lap the sap when it is oozing out of their little hole, same as we do when we tap a maple tree and it oozes out. So they drill these little holes and the tree heals itself, so they often have to re-drill their well. It's called a sapsucker well. But truthfully, they're not sucking the sap, they're lapping it up, but it is, that's what the bird looks like, but we only have them in the wintertime. And you may see them around. Next. Red-eyed vireo, interesting. Never expect to get close enough to see the red eye. Anyway, this is a bird that's higher in the canopy. You do hear them. I typically hear them, and that's when I start looking for them. And they're very chattery. It's a long, and the mnemonic is oddball. It's like, I'm up here. Do you see me? Just look up. I'm up here. I know you want to see me. I mean, it's really short, little short phrases that go on and on and on and on. So red-eyed vireo, they eat insects. Blue-gray gnatcatcher, a tiny little gray bird. This is a bird I no longer really kind of hear. Their song is very high-pitched, above 7 kilohertz. And I don't really quite hear well that range anymore. It looks like a miniature mockingbird, but it does have a very long tail and its overall grace. And by the name is accurate, they eat tiny bugs. They flying out, grabbing gnats, eat gnats. Somebody's got to eat them. Hummingbirds eat them, and so do blue-gray gnatcatchers. And oddly, blue-gray gnatcatchers build a nest that looks exactly like a hummingbird nest, yet bigger. So it's interesting. Nature is so fascinating in all the little different things. Who's next? Oh my God, if you hear one of these, you're happy. Wood thrush, kind of looks like a brown thrasher, but it's smaller. And their song is, they have 2 voice boxes, so they sing a duet with themselves. Eole, eole, eole. If you hear a wood thrush, the rest of your day is perfect. So that's wood thrush. Yellow-billed cuckoo. Yes, Virginia, we have a cuckoo. It's a yellow-billed cuckoo. This bird is a high canopy bird. You typically hear them, and it sounds like somebody coughing or a dog bark in a distance, and they're really high. I've only seen a couple in my life that were, well, close up because they had killed themselves. One flew into a window at Ives. But you know, if you hear that, you look, and you look up, and they have a long striped tail. This photo doesn't show how long the tail is. It's hanging out. So often you see the yellow-billed cuckoo. You don't see the bill. You see the tail hanging down from a branch. Their niche is caterpillars. That's their particular niche. Oh, this guy. They're intense. They're intense. They do need several acres. You may hear them, and they start courtship early. They'll be courting late October into November. He flies into his territory. Who's awake? Me too. And then she will join it. Could be the same partner from last year. If she was content, she'll come in and you'll hear them courting back and forth. And his territory is fairly big because he needs a lot of small mammals, particularly. The books say this is one bird of prey that'll tackle a skunk. And they'll fly that skunk up to their nest and rip it apart. And most all birds have a poor sense of smell. Lucky for him. Anyway, so that's obviously a great horned owl. Wild turkeys. Do any of you guys see wild turkeys? Yo, that's incredible. I write about wild turkeys in my first book. There's a whole chapter about the long hit. We tend to, we're a little condescending to them because we eat turkeys all the time for Thanksgiving, but this is a bird that fed America. And they were we pretty much ate them all. We ate the turkeys and the deer. And so they were really gone, but it's a long, long, long history. It was a bird that was very important to Native Americans. It was without getting it, and it was shipped. It was taken back to England or to the Europe as one of the great finds of the New World, and it became a popular bird there for feasting and eating. That's where the name come from, the country of Turkey, oddly. So anyway, it's named after a foreign country. Anyway, they were practically gone. By the 1940s, the Christmas bird count of the 1940s only found 4 wild turkeys in the entire state. This is a photograph I took on my driveway. I had 10. Coming home one day, there was 10 wild turkeys standing on my driveway. Oh, yo! So they made a hefty comeback. I read a manuscript by one of the TVA officers, TWRA officers, that helped to bring this bird back, and it took decades to bring it back. It's now found in every county, and you routinely see them. Move on. Woods near water. We all live or know of places woods near water. When I worked at IMES, a good portion of IMES is woods near water. We have the Tennessee River or lakes. Birds that like woods near water are barred owls. Barred owls get their name by the stripes down their stomachs, and they live and nest woods near water. Typically, they'll nest in a hollow sycamore tree, or you can put up a barred owl block. But their niche is cold-blooded animals. They hunt at night along the water's edge, eat frogs, salamanders, fish, crawdads. Crawdads come out at night, and there's nothing more delectable to a barred owl than crunching on a good crawdad. So we would find pieces of crawdad along some of our trails at IMES. So that's a barred owl. We're at the same time red-shouldered hawks, and we're going to do a whole bird of prey program next spring sometime. Red-shouldered hawks also live woods near water. They also eat cold-blooded animals. They'll eat a mouse if they need to, but mostly they're hunting for cold-blooded animals along the water. They can live together in harmony because these guys hunt during the day and barred owls hunt at night. So they share habitat, and at IMES, the wetland area, there's nesting barred owls and typically nesting red-shouldered hawks. Wood duck. This is one of the few, we're going to cover ducks in another session. I think it's November. Anyway, it's all on the curriculum schedule. This is one of the few ducks that actually nest here. We have mallards that nest here, and wood duck. Wood ducks is the native duck. Anyway, as the name suggests, they're ducks, so they need water, but they nest in the trees. They nest in a hollow tree. Similar to the barred owl, and you can put up a wood duck box if you think you live on your property and the wood duck box faces the water. It's right above the water. So that's a very gorgeous male wood duck. Females are much more basic. Prothonotary warbler. If you don't have this on your bird list, and now because I'm passing out a list, I'm encouraging you to start a list of every bird you see. Birders do that and plan vacations to go to places where they can find more birds. Prothonotary warbler is one of the few nesting warblers. Most of the warblers pass through in the spring. We'll cover that next spring. These guys nest woods near water. If you say, where can I find one? I'll say, you probably can't do it now. They probably migrated away. But if you go to Seven Islands State Birding Park, way in the back where they have woods near water, say in June, you're going to find this sweet baby. Anyway, it's the most gorgeous, bright yellow bird. You go, oh my God, how did I live and not see this bird? This is one put on your list. That's Prothonotary warbler. Great crested flycatcher. A lot of bird names don't make sense. This one makes complete sense. It's got that fuzzy crest, like most flycatchers do not have. And it's a flycatcher, and flycatchers fly out and catch flying insects. And if you're ever watching a bird up in the trees and it's perched one place, it just kind of flutters out, flutters back, flutters out, flutters back, that's called flycatcher behavior. It's perched watching for flies to fly, any kind of flying insect to come back, and it flies out and catches it and then flies right back. So this is, that's one group of birds of flycatchers you can start identifying by that one behavior. So that must be one of the flycatchers. Yes, and there's several, they're on the list, but this is one of the odder ones in that it doesn't quite have the same streamlined look of the other flycatchers. Okay, now we're going into thicket shrubs and edges, like along interstates or where there's real thick growth and thick understory. And hopefully it's not bush honeysuckle or privet, that's non-native, because that's pushing out the native shrubbery. Anyway, white-eyed vireo. Wow, what are you talking about? Look at the white eye, it does have a white eye. This is a bird that loves to stay hidden in those thickets. At times I knew where they like to be, and I would take my birding classes there down to this one spot and wait. You wanted to wait, they have a very fun mnemonic. Quick with a bird check, please. Quick with a bird check, please. That's a mnemonic, and a mnemonic is a human phrase just to remind you of the cadence. Quick with a bird check, please. And if we can find a bird doing that, and I knew exactly where they like to be, then you do what's called pishing, psh, 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 and that's an alarm call. That's an imitation alarm call. And with any luck, your white-eyed vireo will hop up and look around. What's going on? What's going on? And then disappear again. So that's white-eyed vireo. Gray catbird. Many of you may have catbirds coming around your house. They like shrubbery too, like understory. The old idiom is sitting in the catbird seat because they love blackberry patches. I mean, how can anything get them in a blackberry patch? But they'll love to set up on a perch somewhere where it's really difficult for them, any predator to get to them. And that's the old idiom is sitting in a catbird seat. This means you're sitting in a prominent place. And this is one of the mimic learners that, similar to a mockingbird, and we covered this earlier in the last year, that keeps learning phrases. But with the catbird, it's repeat each phrase one time. And so, and I was like, meow. That's where the name comes from. They say, hey, I'm a catbird. Anyway, solid gray with a russet rump. Anyway, that's a gray catbird. Oh, we're doing great on time. Indigo bunting. Probably the bluest, well, I shouldn't say that. One of the darn bluest birds out there is indigo bunting. Where do you find them? You tend to find them in clearings near woods, power line clearings. If you're anywhere close to where power lines are going over a ridge and they cut it off, that is excellent indigo bunting habitat. They nest high in the trees, but they hunt over the cleared area, and they tend to they show themselves. They're high up in a tree, and if the light is perfect, they look like this. If the light is not perfect, they look jet black. But at Ines, because if you've been to Ines, the visitor center has a wonderful cleared area grass around the pavilion, and we would have usually 3 nesting indigo buntings around that one area. So that's indigo bunting, very, very blue, but only here in the summertime. They're gone by now probably. Grassland meadows, clearings, roadside. Anyway, meadows are the one habitat type in the country that are disappearing. Either we're putting pesticides in the grasslands, which is killing the insects that a lot of these birds eat, or we're developing them. So of all the habitat, woodlands are actually growing more and more. We no longer have to chop down 5 trees just to make it through wintertime anymore. So the woodland areas are growing in habitat and size, whereas the grasslands are decreasing. So several of the grassland birds are declining in numbers. Who's first? Oh, the eastern kingbird. This is another flycatcher, but very distinct flycatcher. Its niche is eating bees and wasps. No one else seemed to want that niche, and he said, okay. So that's why it's called the kingbird. You can see it in near a cleared area, and it will fly out and grab a bee or a wasp. It's like, okay, and fly back, and first thing it does is kind of beat it to death on the branch, and then it eats it. So it eats bees and wasps. That's its niche, and you typically find them also woods near a clearing, open space. Absolutely one of my most favorite birds. make yourself a note. When you get home, go to YouTube and look up all the funky videos of this bird dancing. Anyway, it's an American woodcock. They migrate through, they're not here year round, and they come to clearings that are kind of muddy and soft, damp, and they use that absolutely wonderful long bill to probe the mud for worms. And the end of the bill will open up like forceps. If they find a worm, pop it right out. But they pass through. When I was at Ines, we used to do every spring, late February, early March, woodcock walks where we go out at night to and listen for them. Peent, peent, and the males are already working up their energy for romance, and they're practicing that peent. They'll fly from one spot, or they'll sit in one spot, peent, peent, and for all females who might be interested, they're not interested here. It's not the right time. Anyway, and then they'll do this wacky flight that's circular. Notice me, notice me, notice me. And then land right back where they had left, and pink, start all over. So if you live out more towards the country, listen for this bird, and there's muddy area that's clearing. Listen for this bird in late February and March, okay? They're passing through and the males are just practicing. When they get on site, they want to have it down. They want to have all their everything. And the funky, go to YouTube and watch, you'll laugh. If you need a laugh, and we all need a good laugh right before we turn the lights out tonight, look up woodcock dance, and they're funky. Funky bird, funky. Okay, move on, move on. Eastern meadowlark, one of the most beautiful singers. It's got a bittersweet song, but obviously meadowlark. It's noted. It's called lark because it's noted for its beautiful song, and it lives near a meadow. So this is one of the birds that they're watching closely that seems to be declining in numbers because, again, the meadows are declining in numbers. So that's eastern meadowlark. Field sparrow. This is, that's one, my list I passed around may be a tad bit sparrow short. I need to sit down and really concentrate on my sparrows as far as Knox County. I may have left a few off, but not this one. Field sparrows is one of the easier, the two sparrows which I identify the quickest and the easiest are the song sparrow because they have such a beautiful song. And most sparrows don't really have what you might call a song. But these guys, when they sing, it sounds like a bouncing ping pong ball. So I can identify typically this one and not see it. I just hear it. And if I'm out walking at Seven Islands or another meadowy area, so that's field sparrow. So they they insect primarily, and that's why pesticide use is big trouble. Move on. Oh. Yeah, this is one of those hard to find birds. That's gorgeous. It looks like a chunky indigo bunting, but with brown on the wings and back. Blue grosbeak. I don't know if you can read it, but blue grosbeak. It's closely. Look at that bill. Very closely related to a cardinal. It's got a seed crunching bill. So this is a good. My friend Betty sent me this photograph. It's on sunflower fields. And by this time of year, the sunflower fields that are planted in state places and at Seven Island are starting to produce seeds. And that's where all of these seeds come from. But they will be hanging around the sunflower fields eating seeds with that really big bill crunching, a seed crunching bill. That's a blue grosbeak. We really have three species that are closely related, although they don't look it. And that would be red-breasted grosbeak that pass through. They nest further. Red grosbeaks nest further north, but not that much further north. Say around up in the Cumberland Mountains, and then blue grosbeak that nests here, and then cardinal. That's the three that are closely related with those big bills. Who's next? Oh. I have known in my life, I'm lucky to have known, working at IME, several injured kestrels, because these poor guys get injured often. And this is the only bird of prey, I think, they're really worried about. It's declining in numbers. It's the and used to be called sparrowhawk. It's not a hawk, it's falcon. And we now know that falcons are more closely related to parrots, which explains the facial markings on them than they are to hawks. So doing DNA study, we discovered, well, I'm using it collectively, I wasn't in on the study. But anyway, I did read about the study. Anyway, so they're declining. They eat insects as well. They eat insects and mice and grasshoppers. So they're insectivores. They're a little bit nice, but the entire time that what I was at I almost always had a non-releasable injured kestrel that had been transferred to us to take care of, and they have one now. So that's American kestrel, just a gorgeous, gorgeous, it's the smallest, petite kind of little bird of prey. We love our turkey vultures. You find them along roadside. They're part of nature's cleanup crew. Thank goodness for turkey vultures. This is the one bird on the entire list that has a very good sense of smell. When I was driving back from Nashville yesterday, I could see I saw turkey vultures and black vultures flying over, and they circle around and circle around. They wait for that recently roadkill possum wafting up. Oh my goodness, there's supper. There is supper. So we need them. And it has to be fairly recently killed. They don't eat anything that's been down there 5 days. Ugh. Anyway, they'll come down, so they circle down. If you see typically this is vulture. But if you see one kind of getting lower and lower and doing a little flapping, he must have smelled something. Or she or he must have smelled something. Black vultures look similar, but they do not have a sense of smell. A black vulture has to see it first. So that's turkey vulture. If you drive home and see roadkill, buy the roadkill. Okay, a vulture will find it. You hope. Anyway, move on. Barn owl. Oh my God, don't we love this bird? This is a bird of meadows. This is a bird that historically would nest in caves until our ancestors came and started building barns. And so they just moved to the barns because the barns have the hay and the hay have the mice. The only place I know of you can maybe find one is Seven Islands because they have some barns there that they've maintained. But barn owl, gorgeous. It's not that closely related to the other owls. This owl's got a gorgeous heart-shaped face. And if you were with us last November, you saw one in this very room. So we had one when that's Lisa Thomason, on the right, and her husband Chris is in the middle. They brought them. She is the one federally permitted bird of prey rehabber in this area. So any injured bird of prey that turns up at UT Veterinary Hospital gets moved to Lisa. So she came and she was at our Birds and Brew too. This bird its name is Thistle, and it's got a kind of a sad story in that, I better watch my time. This could go 2 hours, but no. Anyway, this Thistle's got a sad story in that someone snatched it out of its nest and took it home and raised it as a pet. That's incredibly illegal. And incredibly illegal. You can do that with a starling. If you want to raise a wild bird, just go fetch yourself a starling. Anyway, TWRA found out about it, word got out, came knocking on the door, wrote them a fine, I don't know what the fine would be, took the bird away, but because the bird had been living with people, it was totally imprinted on people, and so they transferred it to Lisa, and it'll be on, I've held it right here in this spot. Anyway, pitter pat. Anyway, it'll lay its little head against you, and you like a cat, because it's so imprinted on human beings. It's docile. It's like this gorgeous feathered cat. Anyway, anyway. We had it here in November, and we had it at Birds and Brew. Move on. Now we're going to do shorelines. Again, like I said, I think a little earlier, when TVA changed the raging river that would flood periodically to a series of stillwater lakes, they also created a lot of shoreline. And in the wintertime, they lowered the water levels And so there's a lot of muddy shorelines all around, and that's where you may see a bird. Might see a bird that you think, well, that's a beach bird. Go on. One bird that, oh, look at this gorgeous thing. This is a bird that tends to be on a shoreline if there's cattails. That's kind of its niche. It lives in the two birds I can think of that nest in cattails and can be found in cattails. And I've read that, and we don't have nearly the amount of cattails we used to have, are the common yellowthroat and red-winged blackbird. That's the two birds that nest in cattails. But these birds, if you often will, if you don't see it first, and it's gorgeous, you may hear it, and the mnemonic is witchity witchity witch, witchity witchity witch. So if you're walking along a shoreline or near a shoreline, you see cattails, start thinking, oh, and you listen for witchity witch. So that's the giveaway. But again, this bird is really only here in the summertime, so it's not here in the wintertime where red-winged blackbirds are here year-round. Again, the list will go into the seasonal aspect of some of these birds. Who's next? Killdeer, 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 killdeer. Now, these guys are not, they're not only on shorelines, they're in parking lots. They will nest on a railroad track. They like gravel. If you've got a gravel driveway, there is a chance you might get nesting killdeers because they just lay their eggs in gravel. They kind of clear, they're minimalists when it comes to nest building. Kind of scoot a little patch and lay their eggs in gravel because their eggs look like brown gravel. Anyway, but you'll see them in parking lots running along, killdeer, killdeer, killdeer. But that's a killdeer. So it's a shoreline bird. It looks like a beach bird. But these guys realize, I'll just go live inland. There's less competition. Move on. This is a solitary sandpiper we have in the wintertime, but it's another one of the beach-looking birds that live along our shorelines. It's long-legged and yellow, or yellow long legs. That's another, and they tend to be loners, that solitary sandpiper. Whereas you've been to the beach, some birds are together running around. Yes, Virginia, we have gulls. Gulls started showing up here in the 1950s. I read an article, I think it was one of J.B. Owens' columns, or I read it in The Migrant, which is the little magazine produced by the TOS, Tennessee State Ornithology. And we do have 3 species of gulls that show up just in the wintertime. Now, the most common, the one you're probably going to see, is the ring-billed gull, just like you see at Myrtle Beach. But these guys, they think, were blown inland sometime in the 1950s from New England and Cape Cod area inland to the Tennessee Valley, and they liked it. So now they come back here. So they're not here yet, but say by December, and we'll talk more later, when we get to winter birds, you'll start seeing groups of gulls either sitting along the shoreline or flying up and down the shoreline. And this one is identified by the black ring around its bills. That's what it's called, ring-billed gull. We'll cover the other 2 species in a couple of months. Lakes, ponds, and rivers. Yes, indeed, we've always had rivers, we've always had ponds, but TVA created the bulk of the lakes. So here's your lake birds. Belted kingfishers, they make kind of a rattling, and you can hear them very loud. Up and down the rivers, edge of the river. Typically during nesting season, a male kingfisher will claim roughly 5 miles of shoreline as his territory. And she will be attracted to him and his territory. They actually nest in a riverbank. Drill out a kind of a little cavity inside a riverbank, muddy riverbank. So that's belted kingfisher. And as the name suggests, they eat small fish. Great blue heron. We all know these birds. They're around in great numbers. They nest colonially in Apache sycamores, and they'll build multiple nests. Each is a pair of herons will claim a nest. And we covered this last February. The male flies in usually in January to claim a nest, and then she will join him. They tend to mate for an extended period, maybe for life. Using the term for life is really kind of hard. We know some birds we do can say that, but these are loners. They're like they're great fishermen. The male and female either. They have a favorite fishing spot and they don't tell anybody else about it. So if you've got a cove near your house, you may see a great blue heron standing there. That he's not telling you, or he or she is not telling anybody where he goes to find fish. This is my place, my place. So that's a great blue heron. This is a bird we almost lost. This is a bird that we kill for those plumes. They produce nuptial plumage. When it's courting season, both male and female create these long, beautiful white feathers called nuptial plumes. And that was highly sought after in the late 1800s and early 1900s for hats, these long white hats. But that was made very illegal, and these birds were very much gone. But they've slowly made a comeback, and now they finally showed up in our area. I think that if you're familiar with Looney Island, off Sequoia Hills, they showed up there in 1990, I think, J.B. Owen. And I keep quoting J.B. Owen. He used to write the weekly bird column in the newspaper when I was a kid. Mom would always go get me, I think it was in Sunday's paper. We should make sure to have Sunday's paper so little Lenny could read J.B. Owen's columns. So anyway, a lot of that's where I got, well, those columns where I learned a lot. I move on. We've got two great birds of prey. We'll cover them more during bird of prey. Neither one of these were here historically, bald eagles or osprey, but again, change in the valley to a series of lakes. Bald eagles were brought in slowly and by TWRA and American Eagle Foundation, and slowly released, and the last I heard, they're not going to release any more bald eagles in the Tennessee Valley because we're done, we've got them. But osprey found the Tennessee Valley on their own. So we have both nesting birds. Nesting season is over, but they both hunt fish, big fish. Yeah, go online to YouTube and type in osprey catching a fish. It'll dive into the water to grab it and then work its way out of the water. They're monster fishing birds. Move on, who's next? Oh, one of my little favorites, a pike-billed grebe. I love even to say it. Pike-billed grebe. If I'm driving down the road and I want to say something fun, I say pike-billed grebe, pike-billed grebe. If you see me, I drive a Ford Focus. If you see me, just back away. Say he's either watching for vultures or he's saying pike-billed grebe, pike-billed grebe. Anyway, the pied means spotted. They have a spotted bill. They come out, and they're here very, very common in the wintertime. They're not here yet. We'll cover that in November, I think. But they're loners. You tend to see one grebe. It's what hunters used to call devil divers. They would lower their gun to shoot it. It would disappear, and you could never predict what would pop up out of the water. They swim incredibly well. They eat fish, so they swim incredibly well. Pike-billed grebe, hooded merganser, absolutely gorgeous. And there's several ducks we're going to cover in November, but I chose this one just because this is a great duck, and it's got a serrated bill. It's almost got a tooth bill that it dives and is able to grab fish with that, so it's almost a duck with teeth. That's a hooded merganser, and when he wants to show off, he lifts up that crown and whoa. So that's a hooded merganser. We'll cover those in November, all the ducks. Time, I made it, so now this is where I check the time. I got 5 minutes. We can finish in 5. These guys have to turn this back into a store. So they got 15, it takes them 15 minutes. Anyway, move on. I decided to include, these are kind of city parks, houses, neighborhoods, gardens. More kind of away from backyard gardens, but more into the urban area of Knoxville proper or wherever you live. So, common nighthawk. You will see them in the summertime. And the best place to see them is where there's bright lights. Like go to a baseball game or anyway where there's really bright lights, because bright lights attract insects. And they'll be flying, and they make a sound very similar to the woodcock. Peep, peep, peep. So it's called common nighthawk. They're fairly common. and they fly at dusk at night, but they're not hawks at all. They're closely related to, they're in the nightjar family, closely related to whippoorwills and chuck-bill's widows. If you see one of these parked, that's what they look like. But flying, you notice the field marking is the white striped spot on each wing. So common nighthawk, if you see a bird flying around, I would imagine they're gone by now. Maybe still lingering a few, but they're flying around bright lights, wherever there's a cluster of bright lights, like even here, flying around the lights, and they're looking for the insects attractive. So that's common nighthawk. Yes, we do have starlings. Anyway, starlings, I think everybody knows the story. They were imported into Central Park in New York. There was an odd fashion. They wanted to bring European birds that were mentioned in Shakespeare to, it was an odd group. You know, they missed England. You know, the people in England come here to see birds, but the English people that came here were missing some of their birds. So they brought starlings. They're not protected in any way. If you're hankering to raise a wild animal, go find a baby starling. I've raised them and fed them. But anyway, they're not protected in any way. So that's northern starling. The one beautiful thing about starlings is they fly in unison. They fly in unison. It's called murmuration. Tonight, when you're going to YouTube, type in starling murmuration, and it's like 100 birds flying together, and they do all kinds of twists and turns. It's like us on the interstate, but at a much bigger scale. Each individual bird only has to keep track of the 6 birds around him. It's like when they're driving on the interstate, you're all watching. We're working on a 2-dimensional plane. They're working on a 3-dimensional plane. So they're always moving by what their neighbors are doing. So that's why they don't hit each other. But that's murmuration. If you just if you want to see one, drive down Alcoa Highway. If the traffic's moving past UT Hospital, you'll see a murmuration of starlings. I've not seen one yet, but it's more. They collect all the ones that are born, kind of get together by winter. House sparrow, the bane of bluebird boxes. A bluebird box has an 1.5-inch hole. That keeps a starling out. They can't squeeze in. These guys can squeeze in. This is a bird that's not protected. It was brought here. Its proper name is English sparrow. Our English ancestors missed their sparrows like we didn't have enough. So they brought this one and they adapted well. But I mean, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they live outside in the garden area. They're always there. So that's house sparrow. They are not protected. This is one of there's only 3 species I can think of quickly that are not protected in any way. That was starling, house sparrow, and city pigeon. I'll get to you in a minute, Kate. I gotta finish. Anyway, house sparrow. Who's next? Chimney swift. This is the one bird that's native and I worry about. They nest in chimneys. I don't see nearly as many as I used to. I used to see flocks of 30 and 40 together. They're built to fly. They're related to hummingbirds, oddly. They have very short, practically no legs but they do have feet and they nest in chimneys. But most of us cap our chimneys, and because of that, and because of pesticide use, this is a bird really in decline. Of all the birds I'm talking about, this is the one I'm very worried about. I usually see 3 or 4 together, where I used to see 30. Who's next? Barn swallow. This is a bird, obviously, it's only here in the summertime. I will get one of our future classes will cover all of the swallows and swifts, but I just included this because it's so darn pretty. Anyway, they do like barns or pavilions. If you have an outdoor building, barn or pavilion or anything outdoors, these guys nest and they'll nest 3 or 4 nests at a time. So that is, ta-da! Okay, well, we can take a few questions. I can't take a few questions, but again, we have to let them turn the story back, put the story back together. Yes?
So the Merlin app, I have it set up with